Joining us now to talk about the future of immigration in America, as well as some of the recent efforts by new President Biden, is the president and CEO of the National Immigration Forum and the host of Only in America podcast, Ali Noorani. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Very glad to have you here. There's a lot that we want to talk about, but I wanted to start with the new paper the organization put out, the Room to Grow: Setting Immigration Levels in a Changing America paper. So there's been a lot of national conversation about immigration over the past few years, mostly in response to things that the Trump administration did. But in terms of what the path should be going forward, based on the level of both undocumented as well as legal immigration that we have so far, what are some of the things that you and your organization would like to see?
So, so much of the immigration debate often focuses on kind of what's the number. And, what we tried to do is take a step back, and instead of trying to negotiate that number across a range of work visa and family visa categories, we asked ourselves the question, okay, what is the most important thing in terms of the vitality and future success of the American worker and their family? And that really comes down to the ability of each and every one of us in the United States who are working hard, who have families, our ability to retire safely. So what we did is we looked at the old age dependency ratio, which is not a particularly catchy term, but it's a particularly important number. So back in 1965, the old age dependency ratio, I'm just going to call it the OADR, was above 6.5. That number has started to drop over time because our fertility rates have come down, people are living longer, and our immigration levels in essence have remained static. That number today is about 3.54, meaning that there are 3.54 working age adults to those who are retired. If we were to maintain that level of immigration and fertility rates and all these other factors, the Social Security system would be insolvent by 2034, which doesn't bode well for a lot of people's retirement. So what we did then is we took this number and we said, okay, how do we need to increase immigration just to maintain where we are moving into the future? And that, to kind of get to the point here, is that we estimate that if we as a nation increase legal immigration by 37%, approximately 370,000 people per year, our Social Security system has a better chance of surviving, local tax bases have a better chance of growing, and critical labor needs across our economy, like in healthcare, have a better chance of being met. And that's something that is within our control, and we think is ultimately good for the American worker and their family.
It's interesting because when we hear conversations about immigration, which the conversation generally I think tends to be focused on undocumented, but certainly there were a lot of changes to legal immigration over the past few years as well, although those were much less covered. The conversation is around the cost to American workers, competition for jobs, the belief that no taxes are paid. It's interesting, of course, talking about the increased solvency to Social Security is specifically because of contributions to things like that. Do you see the conversation changing going forward if Biden is going to make big changes to immigration, focusing more on the positive economic benefit of especially legal immigration? Is that a thing that's starting to begin?
I think so. I think what we're going to see in the short term are solutions for dreamers, for farm workers, in essence, for undocumented immigrants who are here today. But in pretty short order, Congress is going to need to turn to, okay, how do we maintain our growth and competitiveness moving forward? And immigration has got to be a big and constructive part of that equation, that conversation. So that may not happen in the next 6 months, but it's got to start happening in the next year or two. Otherwise, Congress is going to be faced with some really unsavory choices. They can increase taxes. They don't like doing that. They can force Americans to work longer. They don't like doing that. Or they can cut benefits. They don't like doing that. They may not love increasing immigration, but out of all those things, this is something that the majority of Americans would like to see.
And you've been sort of comparing this prospective increase of legal immigration versus the status quo. But of course, there are some, they're not now in power, who would like to see immigration further restricted. If that were to happen, how much faster would we reach the sort of insolvency that you're talking about in your paper?
Well, it's interesting because those who are trying to limit legal immigration over the last 4 years and have really tried to, I mean, they managed to cut legal immigration by 50% over the course of 4 years. They managed since the pandemic cut legal immigration by over 90%. So they were fairly successful in their goals. And I think we had seen a second term for President Trump, we would have seen a continued ratcheting down of legal immigration to the US. So. Oh, and they didn't necessarily base that argument on economics always. Underneath it was always a question of, I shouldn't say a question, a message from the Trump White House of culture and immigrants are kind of taking our country away from us. So there was this very insidious kind of combination of culture, race, and economics that led to what Trump was able to do. Yeah. So moving forward, I think if we don't increase these numbers, that number of 2034 being insolvent, that's based on kind of where we are now. I don't. Things are dark enough. We didn't try to. We're trying to be a little positive in the Biden days.
And finally, I apologize for asking this sort of off the cuff. I don't know if you have these numbers, but when I think about like the reduction in refugee resettlement numbers from 2016 on to 2020, it was obviously cut down to lower levels than we've had in a very long time. The changes that you were talking about, let's say pre-pandemic, because that's obviously a unique situation. Where does that put America historically in the amount of legal immigration they're allowing?
Sure. So when Obama left office in 2016, I believe for fiscal year 2017, the refugee resettlement cap was 115,000. Every year of the Trump administration, that number came down, so that this fiscal year, the Trump administration set that number at 15,000. So it's a very good question, because one of the ways that President Biden can start to increase that old age dependency ratio completely within his control is by increasing the number of refugees that we resettle every year. I just saw news before I clicked on, before you called literally, that they were planning on increasing that refugee resettlement cap to approximately 62,000 this fiscal year, aiming for 125,000 next year. Now that's nowhere near 370,000, but it's a start. And the best part about that is not only is it fully within the administration's power to make that change, but refugees are often the ones that are moving to rural areas and bringing a skill set that rural communities are sorely in need of.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.